Sorry for interrupting. Usually when just thinking out loud. Usually when you implement a technology, you're correct. There has to be buy-in. But sometimes, or in some cases, there's also a champion. Maybe it's the marketing head or the IT department, whoever. So I'm thinking out loud, given all these risks that you're mentioning, is there an ideal champion for such a thing? I mean, short of the CEO of any company, because it seems like it's very universal. All of these problems seem universal, and I think it's also the nature of the AI that's quite popular now, the generative AI. I mean, there's been AI in the past, but they tend to be quite niche, applications. They look at a very specific part of the business, and they tend to be quite predictable. Whereas this generative AI is, I think, with the one causing a lot of trepidation. People are worried about it, or some people are worried about it. Some people are not. It's very, very polar extremes. Some people are all about the hype. Yeah, rah rah rah. Let's do this. And then you have the kind of the opposite camp who are just short of saying doing this would be a disaster. So anyway, going back to that first question, any thoughts about who should be a champion for AI, given all of these
So I
risks?
think it, I think it's thank you for asking that. If you've decided on making a change in marketing, for example, so probably the marketing head would be the champion, but maybe a customer might be the champion. I think you have to get as flexible and creative as possible. Because remember, there's always technology involved. So where does the head of technology fit in? Or is there a consultant that you have to bring in? And who does the consultant report to? Does the consultant report to the head of marketing, or does the consultant report to the head of technology? Okay, I think that each company has to decide, but there's one universal that I can't say enough. The whole marketing department, for example, would have to buy into doing something differently, because they're the ones on the front end. They're the ones that would have to deal with the problems with the customers who find an ethical abuse. Okay, or what if there's a team that just does governance and assessment and measurement? Maybe they're the ones that are driving it, because if you don't have ethical standards, if it's going to not work with governance, if it's not going to be legal, you don't want to bring AI in. Okay, so what if there was a team that had someone that measured, assessed, handled government and ethics, someone that handled customer outreach, someone that was involved with technology? What if there was a team that was the lead team? Does that work?
Like
Yeah, does
a
that?
like a transformation team, that's something
Yes.
like that. Okay.
Yeah, because I don't think there's just one problem involved.
Yeah.
If, if the people on the marketing team, again, we're just using this as an example, if the people on the marketing team have to change their daily routines, if they have a different reporting structure, if they have different communication with clients, if their old forms of content management no longer fit with the new AI, they have a different problem. All right, the people involved who touch and work with the new AI every day must be bought in, and their voices must be heard. Because where you don't bring somebody in, not only are you losing an idea that you might need or information that would be vital, you're missing someone who will be part of the solution. And
Mhm.
if they're not part of the solution, they're part of the problem, because then resistance becomes as big of a risk as anything else.
Yeah, what you mentioned opened up many things. So yeah, let's tackle it one at a time. The first thing, probably the
I have
most
one more list I want to share.
yeah, one
You
of the
want to go?
things that one of the things the most obvious is what you're mentioning about resistance. Obviously, when people talk about AI, inevitably it's gonna come to, will someone lose a job? because AI tends to replace people. So that's one part. The other part, after we've dealt with the jobs, is you mentioned ethics. It's interesting how the word ethics has started to become popular again when AI became popular. So let's do the jobs first. What are your thoughts about how do you deal with the prospect of people, not necessarily intentionally, but at some point AI tends to displace people from their work.
I have a question for you. When people's jobs change, which invariably they undoubtedly will with AI, is there a way for these people to learn something in the AI implementation that can give them a new job they might like? Is there a way for them to go to a different department with
Mhm.
the skills they have and not be involved in the AI? I think that's one of the risks that has to be addressed. And right now, I don't think people are being fired. Are they being fired?
Well, it depends. I've heard some news about call centers, for example. I haven't seen it happen like in large numbers. I mean, maybe occasionally. I've also heard that in the software development, sector, um, it's not like people are losing jobs, although there have been a number of layoffs in the States, for example. But in terms of job growth, it's been slower. So that means some automation is probably happening at some level. But
I'm going to
yeah,
assume that there are certain industries that are going to be hit more than other industries.
yeah.
It was like funny. I'm a big tennis fan. I was watching tennis yesterday, and the ball boys and ball girls running after the balls. I'm saying,
Mhm.
oh, their job will never be replaced by AI. Right?
But
There's only
those cameras are AI driven already. They're the ones
they're
making.
already drones, but I